Let's do this. I'm excited. It's a Friday morning. It's March 4th. I have this Jiminy a Cricket mug here filled with Earl Grey tea, creamy Earl Grey tea. That means there's vanilla in it. Facebook's letting me know you're live. How do you know that, buddy? Thanks, though. I'm just going to double check, though, because I don't trust Facebook, nor should you. Oh, yeah, there's me, live, smiling. Do I get to see comments on this? I do. They're right there. Okay, cool. That's all going to show up. No one's watching. I wonder if I did this. Did I just public? I did. Smart. Well, good morning, everyone. Whether you're catching this on the rewatch, turn my phone around. I'm going to sneeze loudly into the microphone. I can tell. Morning, Jess. Nice to see you. The sneeze is burgeoning. It's right here. My body's like, you have something to purge, but you can't force me. So I've had a great week back. I'm fresh back from a trip to Rhythmia in Costa Rica, in Guanacaste. What's up, Doug? Nice to see you there. Doug, who you can see in the comments there. I went down with Doug, so Doug is also fresh back. And what we're going to do today, what I'm going to do today is a couple things. One, I want to share a little bit about just the experience, because it's kind of fun to vicariously hear like what experience did someone have. Two, I'm going to make this window a little smaller so I'm looking closer towards the camera. I wasn't intending that was going to be part of what I shared here, but oh well, that got included. Two, I want to create a bridge, and the bridge I want to create. Hold on, let me get myself sorted out here. Click on this. Click there. Turn off the volume. Great, now I can see the comments. Perfect, it's all working. Two, I want to create a bit of a bridge. Hey, Lee, nice to have you with us. Lee is a lovely woman I met while I was down in Guanacaste as well. The bridge I want to create is one between the deeper spiritual truth of transformational work. And when I say transformational work, I'm talking about transformational coaching, transformational leadership, transformational moments in life, because sometimes life smacks us upside the head and transformation happens. That tends to be the most roughest of forms of transformation because we have no agency in it. And the transformational nature of plant medicine. And specifically here today, we're talking about ayahuasca. So there's this deeper spiritual truth there. And hey, Andy, what tends to happen is that people come back from an experience, a transformational experience, and they're like, oh my God, and we're trying to like put words to it, and we're like energy and like vibration and like crystals and stuff. And then people are like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what happened to this person, but they're batshit crazy. So it sounds like they got something good. And then what happens is we chalk that up in our mind to something happened, but they're not very clear about it. And I guess it's not much available for me in that. Or maybe a different way to put it is that that actually serves as a little bit of resistance for us because we're like, I don't want to be wackadoodle like this person that is talking about vibrations and frequencies and stuff. So the next time something kind of whispers to our spirit and is like, hey, there's an opportunity for transformation here, we have to get over our experience of that person and then whatever else our fear puts in the way of it. So my intention in this conversation is to give us a bit of a bridge so that we can kind of understand a little bit what is going on in ayahuasca experience, what is the transformation like, and why does it make sense? Because it really does make sense. It's not some nonsense. It's not bullshit. There's really clear ways that we can sort of speak about this so that we demystify it a little bit without taking away the mystery of it. And that's really a lot of my aim in all of my work. As my work becomes more and more spiritual, both my own work, the work I do with clients, the work I do in the world, it's to remove some of the mystery to it so we have a better access to it, but without taking away its mystery. Demystify without removing the mystery. Hope you all have a good hot cup of tea. So let's start. I'm going to share about my experience, what happened. So 2 years ago, actually, let's go back even further. Probably about 5 years ago was when I first started hearing about ayahuasca. Almost like a whisper in the wind, metaphorically speaking, of course. I would run into someone. They would talk about doing ayahuasca. I would go to a coach intensive, where like 150 coaches from around the world would gather, and I'd run into someone who was a shaman doing this sort of stuff. And I've all through my life been in and out of drugs, and we could call them medicine as well. Hey, Maximilian. Evening, Maximilian. Maximilian from Berlin. Berlin. I don't know how to say it properly. In and out of drugs all my life. I went to raves, I did drugs at raves, and a lot of that use was fairly irreverent and as as a means to not feel what I was afraid to feel, or to kind of push up what I was afraid to express through the armor I've created to protect myself from the world. So what I mean by that as an example would be, hey Andrew, nice to have you with us. I had learned through most of my early life to armor my heart because then I was impervious to the world. I can go and do whatever, and I don't get stopped by the war in Russia or in Ukraine, I should say, or people saying I'm a jerk, or people having an opinion about me. I'm immune to the world. I am invincible. But I was also untouchable. There was no, because the world couldn't get at my heart, I couldn't experience any of the world. And so life was like a nice flat, I say nice. It was a fine, flat line, impervious, no shift, no change, nothing. It's very boring. And my live video has ended. What's going on here? Facebook, what are you talking about? Did my live video end for you guys? Can someone in the comment let me know if the live video just ended? Because for some reason it's just showing me a Zoom, and I'm not on Zoom, so I don't know what's going on. Let me know if you guys are watching. It says 11 views here, so I might have to fiddle with this. No, it's still showing. I don't know. This is why I don't trust Facebook. This is the right move. Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. Thank you, everyone. Still living. So I'd done things like ecstasy. Now the cool kids call it Molly. And what that did was, of course, break down all of that armor and allow my heart to be expressed. But on some level, that was very false to me. And the falseness that I experienced was the next day, I was embarrassed about all the bullshit I talked with some stranger that had been my best friend for the last 8 hours. And all of that empathy it was a false form of empathy. I was feeling empathetic only because something in my system had temporarily infused me with serotonin. And I was gushing and oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And then we don't really know each other. We haven't really learned anything about each other. We haven't earned any genuine empathy together because we have not done the hard work of removing our armor together in partnership to create a greater intimacy. All that happened was we popped a tab, flush, no armor. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then, so on and so forth. Guys, I am so sorry about the video going back and forth. I have no idea what that's about. That's happened for a while. I feel like Facebook updated something and now it's all wackadoodle and I don't know how to get it to change doing that. So I think we just have to live with that and complain about it, be frustrated with it. So, and if it's unbearable, then, I'm sorry. I can't change that. Hey, Lisa, nice to see you. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. So I'd done drugs. I was, as a result, open to experimenting with plant medicine. It wasn't sort of like a hard stop for me. And while I'd heard these whispers, I'd often have people show up that were not really, they'd be like, you should come and do ayahuasca with me. And in my body, I felt very clear, no, I should not. I don't know what it is. I could probably sit and try to distinguish what that is, but no, I shouldn't. And I'm clear on that. And I trust that. And 2 years ago, a friend of mine that I used to train coaches with in San Diego reached out and said, hey, I'm going to this event. Do you want to come? It's in Costa Rica. And I said, hell yeah. Only to later find out it was going to be a week-long ceremony drinking ayahuasca at this place called Rhythmia, where Doug, Lee, probably some other people here have been. Hey, Monica, Lisa's been there with us. And so that was sort of that moment where it was like, oh, things have just aligned. There's a naturalness to how this happened. And it was a life-changing experience. And at that event, I met Doug, who you can see in the comments there. And Doug and I started to work together. And I said, yo, if you want, we can go down together. We'll sit in ceremony again. And we had intended to go back in a year, but COVID, and so things got pushed. And we were just able to go back, last week. Finally able to make it happen. And it was almost like it was at risk that I wasn't going to go down because Omicron had surged, and then I was like, oh my God, how's do I need to cancel? I'd sort of shared with Doug. He's very patient with that. And but what ended up happening was we went to lead our retreat in Costa Rica, Bay and I, and it was like, oh, okay, traveling is actually not quite as scary as we thought. And that led into this and blah, blah, blah. So that's how all of this transpired. That's how, I'm just going to open a window here. That's how I got there this second time. So, me too, Doug. It's incredible. The first thing I'll share is like going with Doug and I have been working together for quite some time now, and to go down with a client and get to do this work is just absolutely incredible. The relationship we got to create, the time we got to spend with each other, and to really see each other in the process. Because oftentimes, as coach, I'm not deep in my work with my client. There is, but there's a degree of unilateralness. There has to be. Just like my coach doesn't come to me and start complaining about her husband or something. She wouldn't really do that, but that's not the nature of our work. She is holding space for me to be in my processing. This is why coach is different from a friendship. So, incredible trip. I'm going to tell you a little bit of how it went. And then we're going to broaden out to what's actually going on, what's really happening here. So the last time I'd gone down, a couple things happened. The first night, I got fucking nothing. Nothing at all. I drank medicine. I drank 2 cups, and I lay in my bed, and people around me wailed and cried and sobbed and laughed and did all this stuff. They vomited. They farted. Nothing happened. I just laying there peacefully like this, bored out of my mind, frustrated. The medicine wasn't working. And it was really hard for me. And I had this feeling like, geez, everyone around me is on like this rocket ship to the moon. Even the pukers, at least they're getting something. And I'm getting nothing. I'm just sitting here all by myself, alone. This sucks. And I was really annoyed and really scared I was going to go through these 4 days and not get anything. It just wasn't going to work for me. And that was the absolutely perfect medicine for me to be with that first night. The medicine I was getting was like, hey, Adam, here's an opportunity to experience the very thing you've spent your entire life avoiding feeling. I spent a lot of energy in my life ensuring I'm not left out, ensuring people think I'm cool and invite me to their party, ensuring I don't invite people to my party because I'm afraid they'll say no. And so it's easier for me to kind of just be okay that they didn't come to my party because I didn't invite them anyhow, blah, 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 blah. You get the whole idea. So all ways that I'd structured my life to avoid having to feel or be with a particular experience. And then what this amazing medicine does is just plunk me straight down into that experience. Here you go. Nothing's going to happen. You're getting left out. How's this feel? And as time went on, I started to open more, and that allowed the medicine to do more work with me, and things started to pick up from there. So around the third of 4 nights, the structure of time spent at Rhythmia is the first night is breath work. You have 4 nights where you drink the medicine, ayahuasca, and then 2 more nights of breath work. And the breath work's really powerful too. Hey, Sakev, nice to see you here, man. Sakev, you had the exact same experience on your first night. Perfect, right? This medicine is so wise. We're going to talk about the wisdom in this medicine in a bit, but for now, I'll just leave it at that. So as time went on, by the 3rd night, the medicine was working in me, and it started to share with me some stuff that was pretty, it arrested me, would be a good way to describe it. So what happened was it was like, I'd been watching these shamans work. I'd been making friends with some of them and noticing, as someone was struggling with something, they would do stuff like fan them with a feather. I don't think I have oh yeah, here we go. They have like a smudge feather like this, and then it would fan them, touch them with the feather and move the energy through their body and do stuff like that. And I would see that happening, and then someone, burst into tears, or you'd feel their whole body relax or something like that. And what I started to notice was like, wow, this on some level feels a lot like the work I'm doing with my clients and in the world, and the same kind of work I'm teaching and training other people to do. Interesting. And then Mother Ayahuasca was like, yo, she doesn't always say yo, but she does partner with me a lot. She's like, yo, this is what's next for you, Adam. This is the next evolution of your work, which was thrilling and terrifying. And all of the thoughts that came up was like, oh, fuck, I'm meant to become a shaman? What does that mean? I love my job. I love my work. I love where I live in Victoria, British Columbia. Do I have to move to Costa Rica? And so, exciting. It wasn't like, Adam, your whole life's a disaster and you need to put out 58 fires. It was like, here's some possibility, but remember that possibility and fear always show up in equal and opposite countermeasure. So I could see the possibility, but then all this fear showed up. And so the final night of sitting in ceremony, I brought to her, okay, got it. Shaman, whatever. What the fuck do I do with that? What do I do from here? Now you've given me that. And as I sat and drank the medicine and bead with what was brought to me, the message I got was, you don't got to do anything. There's nothing you have to do. Just be. Continue to be in your work. This is going to unfold naturally. Great medicine for me. Don't run towards it, nothing. I immediately forgot that. I was like, okay, great. Just chill out, relax. By the end of that night, I went up and talked to one of the shamans. I was like, yo, can we train together? And I came home and started Googling, like, how do you become a shaman? Do I need to buy a bunch of feathers? Where do I buy one of those robes? Or like all of that sort of stuff. So you can kind of see a little bit what happens when I get afraid is I can kind of try to run towards it. In Enneagram work, they call this counterphobic. Sometimes the way we learn to be with our fears, we run away from it. Other times what we learn to do with our fears, run towards it. Get it over with. That's like clench your teeth and drive through the fear kind of approach. Neither of these approaches is particularly helpful because the real work to do in life, the real transformational work, is to simply be with our fear. And whether we're running away from it or running into it, both of those are ways to not have to actually just sit in the fear. Anyhow, that's what happened. Run towards it. And then over the last 2 years, it's slowly dissipated a little bit. It's kind of sat here, in the back of my mind. But what happened is my intellect starts to come back online. And I start to be like, yeah, that was a bit crazy. Ooh, what was going on there? So leading into this second time coming down to sit in ceremony, or third time, I guess, sit in ceremony, and to drink what would be my 9th through 12th, maybe it's even more than that, I don't know, 9th through 12th times that I've sat and drunk this medicine, I was kind of like, all right, we'll see. I'm not going to go off the deep end again. I'm not going to get all celestially drunk and, buy a house in Costa Rica and blah, blah, blah. Much to my surprise, it didn't necessarily go the way I thought it would, as life tends to be. So this time, a couple things happened. First, coming down and sitting in my first night, I came into what's called the Maloka, the sacred temple and the space that we sit in and drink medicine. And I felt very at peace with whatever I was brought. So this time I had no requirement for the medicine to look a certain way. I had no need for like a light show, which is what I really, if I'm honest, that's what I wanted that first night. I'm like, okay, blow the back of my head through the cosmos. Let's do the stuff. Lee, I'm with you. Let's talk. Saying I'm buying a house in CR, and I noticed that is starting to unfold for Bay and I. Early days. I'm not going to run towards it, but I know what you're talking about. So that first night I came in very open to whatever I was brought. And what happened was the medicine met me in that gentle acceptance. So rather than her have to be like, oh man, this guy is clear on what he wants, right? That first time I was constricted. This is what I need. We often talk in ayahuasca ceremony, trust the medicine. The challenge is that my trust is often a function of my intellect and what I can currently see. And so when someone says trust the medicine, I'm like, I am trusting the medicine, but that's because I think I know what kind of medicine I need. And if the role of this work, of transformational work, is to support you to get to a place that is profoundly different than where you currently reside, there's no way that you could ever have any understanding of what you would need to get there. Because if you did have an understanding of what you need to get there, you'd already be able to get there. There'd be no transformation. So that first time I'm like, I'll trust the medicine, provided she fucking brings me a light show. And she had the wisdom, nah, don't bring this guy that. That's crazy. So that first night, she had to work with me, so to speak, to unfold so I could simply be with what there was to be with. The second night I came in much more open. There was less of a this is how it has to look. And it was more like, let's see what happens. So my first night was quite gentle, loving, delicate. The second night, and at the end of that, I was like, sweet, I'm excited. Something happened. I didn't have to like grind through it or hammer 8 cups of medicine down my body to make something happen. Like, cool. I got an experience of the ground I've taken. The the deepening of trust, the deepening of my access to spirit, the work that I've been under and doing for the last 2 years with my coach, more medicine. So the second night started to really open things up from there. And what she provided me as we sat together, no, I should say ayahuasca makes herself known in many different ways for many different people. The experience I often have when I'm sitting with that medicine is one of like partnership. So it really feels like myself and ayahuasca are partnering, or even put differently, I am the ayahuasca. I am the medicine in that moment. And so rather than like I'm in a dialogue with this entity that's separate from myself, my experience is more one like I'll be laying on the bed they provide, sort of just sitting with my thoughts, letting my body be moved. And I'll have a question come forward like, what's next for me? This is one of the intentions I brought. And rather than feel like there's this snake shaman or whatever telling me, this is what's next for you, instead it occurs like just the next thought that comes to mind. If you've ever read the book Conversations with God, which I highly recommend, by Neil Donald Walsh, he sat down in front of his typewriter and was like, angry. God, why is the world the way it is? It's so unfair. And he sat there like harumph. And as he sat there, his fingers started to type. And it was like, are you wanting answers? Hey, Rachel. Rachel, as y'all can see in my comments, is my coach, my amazing coach who's supported me for almost a decade now, prior to other amazing coaches I've had. Andy, I love those books too. They're phenomenal, incredible, beautiful pieces of writing, channeled work. So Neil Donald Walsh sat at his typewriter and 3 books got channeled through him where God was like, ask me what you want. And he'd ask like, why is it that there is war? And then God would answer. And, that can sound a little hokey to our intellect. But if you read them, I think what I find those books do is they really touch us at our spirit, and our spirit lies behind our intellect. Our intellect, much like science, is like this little window. It's a beautiful thing. It gets things nice and tight. It makes things predictable, understandable. We can grok them. But looking through this tiny pinhole, you're never going to get to see the entire tapestry of the deeper spiritual truth. And so Conversations with God access that deeper spiritual truth, as does Madre Ayahuasca. The reason I went on that tangent was to share that is often how my dialogue, my partnership with ayahuasca plays out. Is it's more like I'm sort of, the wisdom is coming forward from myself. So I'll sit and think like, what is next for me? And then, so as I was sitting on this, asking these questions, what is next for me from here? There's something I want to share before that. One of the things, there's 3 intentions you're invited to first start practicing with in sacred ceremony. The first is a request with ayahuasca, show me who I've become. In transformational work, this is the moment where we're getting the opportunity to see what lies in our blind spots. So in coaching, the way this works is that you get clear on something you're committed to in your life and you start to move towards it. And then as you do so, you're naturally going to confront all of the ways you show up in your life that block you from already having what you say you want. And as you sit with that and your coach supports you, you're going to start to see the blind spots, the stuff you've been tripping over all your life, but have been unable to see, because that's the way a blind spot works. We cannot see that we cannot see. So it's not like we look and we're like, here's a big black void in my field of vision. That's clearly a blind spot. We look, you can do this now. There's nowhere in your field of vision that occurs like a black void. It looks pristine. There is no blind spot. That's why blind spots are so hard for us to see. So in coaching, that's how that works. In ayahuasca, she just puts it in front of you. You get a vision, or you get an experience, a feeling. I'm left out. This fucking sucks. And so that's that part where we're being shown who we've become. What are all the ways I've learned to show up in the world that may not be in alignment with who I am? What are all the ways I've learned to show up for which I judge other people brutally and harshly? If you hate people like, say, Trump or Biden or whoever your person is, if you hate them for the bully they are, I can guarantee you pretty good money that one of the things you're going to have to confront in ceremony or transformational coaching are the places in your life where you too are a bully. That's the nature of this. The energetic laws, if you've read any of my writing on this, are that like what we judge out there is a function of what we judge internally. And what we judge internally, we push down below the surface of our consciousness. And then once it's below the surface of our consciousness, we can't see when we're doing it. So it kind of runs amok. We end up being really good and nice over here, but behind our back, we're ended up bullying someone, elbowing them out of the way, and being totally oblivious to that, and then judging other people for being a bully, and so on and so forth. So that's that first intention, that first night. Show me who I've become. And as we can sit with that, hey, Mara, nice to have you with us. As we can sit with seeing who we've become, we can relax into it instead of holding it in resistance. This happens in all transformational work. Surrendering to it as opposed to holding it at arm's length. I would never be that way. Instead, like, fuck, I am that way. And once we can start to own that we are that way, then and only then can we start to love it. As long as you're like, fuck that, never that, there's no way you can bring love to that thing. You're holding it with like fists, you're punching in the head. You can't love that way. We have to be willing to let it come into our heart. Oh my God, I am that way. And can I love myself as that which I would judge most harshly? So this would be the second intention that you are invited to work with at Rhythmia, which is merge me back with my soul at all costs. And the cost that we are most resistant to is our truth. It's seeing the truth. I don't want to see what I've become. I don't want to accept that I could be just like Putin or like Trump or like whoever you vilify in the public arena. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to consider that because I hate them so much. And I would never be like that. That's a pretty big block. That's a pretty big barrier to you coming to truth with who you are. What's up, Jared? Jared was, Doug, I don't know if Doug's here too, Jared. I don't know if you guys met each other last time, but Jared was at Rhythmia the first time I went. So show me who I've become. Until I can come to terms with who I've become, I cannot merge back with my soul. And to merge back with my soul simply means to come back into alignment with who I've always been, including the parts I don't like. And the third intention is heal my heart. Heal the heartbreak, heal my heart. Let me come back to a place of whole and completeness. Not so that I was never, ever heartbroken ever at all. Not that kind of healing, but rather heal my heart in partnership with the heartbreak that's there. Kind of like if you have a dog you love more than anything in the world, such as the dog I own called Grimby, and that dog passes on and it absolutely guts me and devastates me, which I promise you it will. I hope. It'd be weird if it didn't, because I love that little fuckface. So if you have something you love that much, and then he passes on to what he's going to do next on this celestial plane, that's going to be devastating. Healing my heart does not mean erasing that grief, because that would also be to erase the love that I felt for that pooch. Instead, it's like, can I find a way to move forward with an even more open heart in partnership, in unison with that heartbreak? So that's what's happening as we move through these three intentions. The first and second night, what I brought was like, show me who I've become. And my fear was like a little bit like, all right, I'm ready for you to punch me in the side of the head, which is a little bit from my soul, from my spirit, from my heart, I'm very committed to taking on this work. That I get to do transformational work with other people, I hold sacred and with very high responsibility. Not from a blame or a weightiness, but just like I really hold it sacred, reverence. And so I'm really committed to do my work. However, from my fear, that commitment to do my work can become a inability to trust myself and a deeply ingrained fear. Fuck, I feel good about this, but what if I'm missing something? What if I'm a blind prophet? What if I'm an oblivious cult leader? You know, all of those fears are like, don't buy too much into yourself, Adam. And so what Madre Ayahuasca brought me was, here's who you've become. And I was overwhelmed with love for the man that I was present to. And I got to sit in this beautiful experience of just deeply loving, holding myself with reverence, honoring the person that I am, the man I'm committed to being, the the transformation and the service I'm committed to bring to all the world, blah, 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 blah. Not everyone had this same experience. This is part of the gift of being in this work for a long time. 10 years, 12, I don't know how long, but over a decade of transformational work, it's doing the same thing. Thank you, Michelle. I love you too. Um, so I've been getting shown who I've been for many, many, many years. And as time's gone on, I've become softer and more gentle and more loving with the parts of myself, even when I see something that I might have some judgment over. So in the early days, it was like, fuck that. I would never be that fucker. But these days, my experience when I start to encounter my blind spots is a little like, Adam, you dorkwad. Great. We found a new edge. Let's lean into it. And, I get scared. So it's a little tricky. It's not quite that smooth, but like there's a lot more gentleness to that. And so she was giving me this gift, seeing that. So let's get on to the third night. The third night, what she brought me, I said, thank you for showing me who I've become, for merging me back with my soul, for healing my heart. I kind of moved through very quickly. By the end of the second night, at Rhythmia, they promise, much like I do in coaching, you're going to get a miracle. You will create a breakthrough. We promise. You got to show up for it. You can't show up and then be like, fuck the medicine, I'm scared. I'm going to go sit in my bedroom. The miracle didn't happen. You got to do the work. Just like showing up and resenting your coach for a year is not going to create a breakthrough for you. But if you're willing to show up in your life and be a participant rather than a spectator, you will get breakthroughs. You will create miracles. So by the end of the second night, they asked anyone have shares, and I was really clear. I was like, miracle achieved, swish, nailed it. No one's going to be left behind here. I wanted to share to the group, look, none of you are going to be left behind. We're all going to get our miracle, and we're going to do this together. It's very clear on that opportunity, very clear like, oh, there's a calling forward of my leadership in partnership with the medicine. There's something I'm here to not necessarily do actively, but to hold the energy that all of us will create our miracle. The third night, I came to ceremony. Michelle, thanks for sharing that. Michelle just saying, I loved it when you shared how all she showed you was being with your boredom. Yeah, she's brilliant and wise. So the third night I came and said, what is there for me to do next? What is there for me to be next? That's sort of a question that they invite you to bring. And she again gave me this message. She said, she spoke it a little differently. It was very similar to the last time I was sitting in ceremony, which was, Adam, you have been a medicine man for a very long time. You are now ready to start to own that about yourself. And she said some other stuff that was kind of freaky, like, you are the medicine. Go and bring the medicine. As well as some stuff like, you've got a big role to play in the shift. You have a big role to play here at Rhythmia. You have some work to do here. She gave me just enough to scare my pants off, but not enough to give me a clear plan of action that my intellect, the thing designed to keep me safe from my fear, could grab a hold of and then fuck everything up. And I can feel the truth of this, right? This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about spiritual truths. There is a degree, what's going on? Do I get vitamins? Ooh, look at all these vitamins I got. Hello, bae. I'm not going to eat them now because then it would be weird, but this is the one I don't like. This vitamin tastes weird. And this one's crunchy, but these ones are like tasty jube treats. Okay, anyhow. So Mara asking what was scary about, this notion, being a medicine man, blah, blah, blah. This is a few things. One, that's an edgy thing for me to own because who am I? I've got that voice, the imposter voice. Who am I? Who the fuck do I think I am? And look at these people at the front of the room. What if I tell them the medicine has told me I'm ready to start calling myself a medicine man, and they just sort of like cluck their tongue like, oh, Adam, that's great that it told you that, but... So I'm afraid of being left out. I'm afraid of being this little tiny boy who is excited about an idea, but then no, pat me on the head, placate me, off you go, that sort of thing. So it's my fear, right, wants to grab a hold of that and protect me from that. And then consequently, of course, I can like sprint right into that to get it handled so that, all right, I'm here, they can't take it away from me, or just avoid it. Instead, I sat with this, had some time with this, and the way Madre provided this was a little safer or a little more crystallized, right? So she wasn't just saying, yo, go be a shaman this time. She was like, You're ready to start owning that you're a medicine man. And Mara is saying, wow, it's so obvious that you are. Love that we can be so lost and not able to see our brilliance. Thanks, Mara. Thanks for reflecting that. Um, so let's have a sip of tea. So I sat with this, and on the spiritual level, and when I talk about the spiritual level, like when you become present to a spiritual truth, you can feel it like a stirring in your chest or a opening in your loins, or like something that's sitting from behind your intellect. I don't want to get too specific about those locations because that would put it into the realm of the intellect, which is not where the spiritual truth lies. You know what I'm talking about on some level. Spiritually, you know what I'm talking about. And so when we feel those spiritual truths, it's like we already know the truth of it. We can already feel it. And then what happens is our fear gets activated because that represents possibility for us. So I felt the spiritual truth of like, there is something for me to be here. The last time I was here, I felt that too. I felt this like, there is something about this place in Costa Rica where I am to bring my art to it. I have no idea what to do with that. And again, that was showing up for me. And what my fear wants to do is bring my intellect online and then start looking at how does that make sense? How can we make that make sense? How do we arrange the pieces on the chessboard so as to manage to allow that to come into place? How do we do all of this? Why would it make sense? How can you arrange? You can all of that. It gets really busy. So this is the human experience I'm describing to me here in this moment. I'm describing it for myself, but also for all of you and everyone listening after the fact. We already feel that truth. It's already there for us. We just have learned to decalibrate our antenna and instead to listen to this device up here, our mind, whose job is to keep us from being heartbroken, to protect us from danger. And the trouble is that if you wish for a life of love, you have to be willing to be heartbroken. I cannot love my dog to the extent I love that little guy if I'm unwilling to be devastated by the time he passes on. I can kind of harden my heart, protect my heart from heartbreak, and then I can like him intellectually, but that'll never be the same as love. And so for whatever it is we're craving in our life, there is a flip side to the coin, which is kind of like the absence of it. If you wish a life where your brilliance and your wisdom are fully expressed, you must be willing to show up looking like a dorkwad, stupid, dumb, foolish, because those are two sides of the same coin. And so the spiritual truth is access to that part where we're like, I know this is what's here. And then our mind comes online to protect us from that side of the coin we're afraid of. So you might meet someone and be like, there is energy here with this person. I can feel that this person and I are sexually, dynamically connected. I'm drawn to them. And then your head's like, yeah, but how do you know? Can you trust that? What if this person's not feeling what you're feeling? Blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is we buy into this. And what it does is it does protect us from the potential of heartbreak because it never lets us get into the possibility of love in the first place. And so everything falls away. And then what we do is we end up living our life protected from the downsides to all the possibility that's available, all the possibility that can come from living into an open heart. So this is all happening. You're a medicine man. It's time for you to start owning this. Not only that, you are the medicine. Go forth and bring medicine into the space, Adam. What the fuck do I do with this? And having gone through this process a few times now, I'm kind of clear, like, oh, this guy's trying to come online and I'm going to set him aside over and over and over. I'm going to notice when I'm back up into my thoughts. And I'm going to just sit with this spiritual truth that I already know to be true. I can feel it on some level already. Yeah, I love that you love your dog that much, Lauren. And Mara, you get it, right? As a parent, right? That's the beauty of children. They're our greatest spiritual teachers because they take away the ability for us to harden our heart. That is one place where we can't. And the remarkable thing about the adaptability of humans is we actually can harden our heart back up to them, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of work and a lot of trauma to do that. So that was my third night. I'm like, okay, I'm getting that same message again. And much like I felt it the first time, I can feel the truth of it. Fourth night, I sit down and I go and introduce myself to the shaman who's leading this night, a man called Mitra. You got to know, you don't got to know anything, but I want you to know that medicine work, ayahuasca work, much like coaching work, when you meet people really deep in their work, there is a magnetic, charismatic, delightful energy to them. And it is the energy of full expression. It is the joy of being around people that are no longer beholden to shoulds or coulds or what is right or appropriate, but instead have learned to fully trust their soul, their heart, their spirit, their being, their body, and live from that place. And so what you see around these shaman is like beautiful expression of art, awesome sense of style, all unique. They're not all dressing the same way, but all unique in their own expression through their style. Great tattoos, right? Medicine on my body. This is all part of my medicine. All of this sort of stuff. And they have a deep, deep, deep reverence for creation, universe, Pachamama, the medicine, all of this, coupled with a delightful irreverence. And it's kind of like they can see the majesty, the beauty, the miracle of all of this, and they can see the cosmic joke that's on all of us. We're here, we do stupid stuff, we walk outside and we step in dog poo, a skunk sprays us, we think we know the right answer and we discover we were miles away from all of that stuff. So they have this amazing duality present in them, which is like simultaneously reverential for all of it and then totally irreverent and able to make jokes and be hilarious. So anyhow, I sit down in front of Mitra, I introduce myself, and I tell him, this is what the medicine brought me last night. It said I've been a medicine man for a long time and I'm ready to start owning that about myself. So my intention tonight is to trust the medicine, to partner with the medicine, and to surrender to it. I'm going to drink it and listen to what it provides me and just open myself up to it. And then I ask, do you have any medicine for me in this moment? And it's funny, all these shamans, they use the technology of plants a lot. So one of the things they sometimes do is use tobacco to help them access a deeper level of their own spirit. And they take this tobacco and he kind of puts it in his mouth. You often talk to them, they're like moving this lump of tobacco around. He thinks, and he says, he leans in and he says, to be a medicine man does not necessarily mean to be a shaman. It can, it's just not required. And it also does not mean someone who goes and heals other people. To be a medicine man is to be someone who takes on their own healing over and over and over again and heals their own relationship with their self, their relationship with their soul, their relationship with their lineage, and their relationship with nature. And as you do more and more of that, the rest unfolds. And so you can see the contrast between that incredible medicine he gave me that night and how I was being that first time I'd gone. And the medicine was like, be a shaman. I was like, all right, let's fucking sprint into Google and go on eBay and buy shaman gear. I wasn't quite so silly, but you get the idea. So there's that wisdom of like, just keep doing the work. Just keep taking the medicine of your coach with your coach, Adam. Keep drinking the medicine of ayahuasca and keep trusting both of those and all the other medicine you see to take on. And the rest unfolds. And so a couple more things happened, and then I'm going to start to come to the questions we've got, because we've got some amazing questions, and I love you all for what you've brought. I'm really excited to talk about these things. Do you even shaman, bro? Says Alex. I love it. Bruh. And Maximilian saying, thank you, Adam, for speaking to this. It's bringing my experience of Aya about 2 weeks ago into deeper alignment, and you're re-engaging my integration process. Oof and mm-hmm. Aho. Aho out, hermano. So coming out of ceremony, the last 2 days, I could feel the same thing happening last time, which is I'm present to this spiritual truth. Come back to rhythmia. Don't just go drink with other shamans. That's fine. Drink the medicine, but come back here to rhythmia. This is the place for you to be. Rhythmia is not cheap. It's the world's first fully licensed medical facility to go and drink ayahuasca. It is beautiful. It is set up like a wellness retreat. So there's incredible yoga. I worked with one of the best yoga teachers I've ever worked with, who I absolutely adore. There's incredible, clean, great food, and it's about a $5,000 ticket to go there. If you bring 3 people with you, if you enroll 3 people to come, then you get to go for free. And so there's this spiritual truth I'm feeling, which is like, come back here. Here is where there's work for you to do. You will be speaking here. Oh, you, blah, 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 blah. Your art is to be unveiled and provided here. And so that's the spiritual truth. My brain is like, yo, slow down with that spirit nonsense. We'll do that after we work out the intellectual stuff. That never works. You can't go through the tiny tunnel of science or intellect and then try to then broaden out to spirit. That's not how it works. That's like the backwards way. So you got to start with the spirit. And so I'm just noticing this as I'm preparing to finish up my time here. This like truth I can feel and on some level know. And that truth, hello Grimby, little medicine dog. That truth resonates the same way signing up for coach training, the transformational coach training I took and then later led, feels the same way that did. And that, I remember very well, that transformational coach training came in front of me, and intellectually I was like, what a bunch of fucking bullshit. And viscerally I felt like, this is what's next. And I had $100,000 of debt. My wife at the time, who is a masterful coach in her own right, had everything to say about how bad an idea this was. And we had no money to pay that $30,000 that it cost to take this training. And yet on some level, even though I was in law school, training to be a lawyer, doing all this stuff, thought coaching was nonsense, spiritually I was drawn to that. I felt that stirring. And I feel the same stirring with this thing with Rhythmia. And so that's the game I'm playing right now, is trusting that stirring in my soul, that knowing that is there. And the way that's looking right now is I'm setting now. So my intention, just to let you all in what's happening in this conversation, is I'm sharing sort of what's come out of it. And then how do I integrate that? How do I start to put that into practice? So what I could do is come home and be like, that was fucking cool. I can't wait to go back at some point. I know I will. And then leave it at that. But I know I've done this enough times in my life to know that spiritual stirring is truth. That's really scary because my intellect, there's no way it can get on board with that. There's no way I can intellectualize myself to a place where I trust that spirit from intellect. And the reason that that's the case is because that's not what my intellect is designed for, nor yours. Our intellect is actually designed to protect us from the dangers of trusting that spiritual truth, right? Remember, if your spiritual truth to someone is, I love them, I can feel it already, your intellect is designed to protect you from the potential of heartbreak that person represents. And if you are in a loving relationship, you're going to experience heartbreak a lot, just like you'll experience love a lot. Whether you stay with the person or not, it doesn't matter. And so I'm actively in the practice of noticing the intellect trying to come online and putting it in its place. Where its place is like helping me the logistics of how I'm working this out, but staying plugged into that deeper tapestry underneath all of this that pervades all of this and has us all in some kind of communion with each other, whether we're aware of it or not. And so what I'm creating from here is setting aside first every 2 months in this coming year, I'm going to be going down to Rhythmia, and I'm going to be bringing 3 people with me. And what I'm going to be doing with those people is first feeling into my spirit and asking, like, who am I called? Who feels like their soul is ready for this invitation? Who feels ready to come and join me on this journey and be in this form of medicine with me, as well as the medicine of coaching, and enroll them to come and spend this time together. And in doing so, and being really a committed stand for enrolling people in that, I can go and drink more medicine. I can go, Mara, noted. I love that your hand's up there. You feel the stir. Then I can go more often and continue to do my work. And so what this does, like already you can start to see, oh, here is that spiritual truth. Adam has a role to play, starting to play out, right? I can bring more people to this magic. I can continue to do my own work, and then through that continue to be more of the medicine and serve more, and so on and so forth. It's all scary. It's all like How does it work? How does it happen? Jess, noted. Yes, Monica's saying, I love that you said your logical mind has its place and it is good for the structure and logistics. I tend to want to shut it down when in the medicine and that backfires. One of the things I am a stand for in the medicine I bring the world is that every single part of us is precious. Every single part of us is worthy of reverence. I hear sometimes people saying like, your ego is going to show up. There's no place for it here. I say wrong. Your ego absolutely is a precious, sacred part of you as well. And if it shows up, that is there to tell us something. We just don't want to give it too much significance. If we are actively trying to shove something out of the door, that's a fuck ton of significance. And if we are wrapping ourselves in a blanket called ego is making me scared, that's a lot of significance too. So instead, we just want to allow life to show up as it does and choose the degree of significance we assign it. So I'm going to be sharing more as time goes on about these invitations to ceremony, and I'm looking at how I want to, like, part of what I see I can do is support people before, during, and after. Because while I was sitting in Rhythmia this past time, one of the things I noticed I have a gift to offer from all of the transformational work I've been steeped in is to support people to understand where they are in their process and to help them continue to see the work they're doing. Because when we are in the thick of it, when we spend a night with our head in the bucket, and I'm going to talk more about purging in a moment, but like when we spend our night with our head in the bucket, vomiting, feeling terrible, not understanding why Madre Ayahuasca is showing us pictures of our family burning in a fire, or like, whatever it happens to be, it's okay, Grims. Spiritual truth for this dog is demanding that I let him out. Get out of here, good little pooch. When we have that experience and we wake up the next morning and we're rife with judgment, fuck, I'm not doing the right thing. I should have drank an extra cup of medicine. I shouldn't have drank an extra cup of medicine. Things were going so well and then they went bad. I did something, all of that. It's really hard for us to see what's happening as perfect and harder still to trust that. That's a better way to put it. And so part of what I'm going to set up with people is the opportunity to really not take away the work, because you can't do that. I can't make squats easier for you to do. You got to do the squats. But we can set you up so that you're at your most open coming into this work, and the medicine can meet you at your best. And we can support you throughout the process so you really understand and can have grace and love and continue to open outside of the ceremony. And that's a lot of where I'm noticing my medicine can be brought, is not when people are drinking it and celestially drunk, not in their cups, so to speak, but on the outside of that, when they're sort of in the aftermath, the impact. Support them there, and then support them on the outside of that. So that's going to be amazing. It's crazy. It scares me. It really excites me. And I'm going to share a few more little pieces about the future that I'm seeing, that I'm glimpsing, and then we're going to shift to the other thing I'm going to talk. Whatever I said I was going to shift to, we're going to shift to that. I think questions. That's it. Questions. Hello, Grimby. Thanks for coming back. Close the door. It's a fun dance he and I do. So, one, I'm clear that this kind of medicine work is a beautiful connection with the medicine I bring as a coach. I'm going to be doing more and more of that. Doug, who's been in the comments, and I went, and it was just transformational and amazing and such a beautiful way to broaden our relationship together. And so really committed to bringing more of my clients down and spending this time with them, this sacred time. Another thing that I started to see was like, wow, I think that there is I don't think it's something we pay for, but I think that there's an opportunity to bring this to the forge in some way, not to require it of people, but to create the clearing in which people feel they can step into this and then to be with them as they move through their process. And as I came back for that, I was really clear, well, there's invitations I'd like to make, but I'm not going to do that until Bay is ready. And one of the things that's really magical, Bay's experience, I had shared earlier, I'd been a user of drugs for much of my life, whereas Bay, not at all. And as I came home, Bay shared, I was just sharing about my experience, saying, I'd really love to go with you. And she said, I think I'm ready, which blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, spiritual truth, right? Stuff is happening whether you are aware of it or not. In fact, almost better you're not aware of it, because then you don't try to get your hands on the machinery. I'll help. Oh crap, shouldn't have done that. So I came home, Bay shared that, and was like, we just got to figure out a time when. And I'd already looked to my calendar to like, what are some dates where we could kind of make it work with everything we have done? And I was like, well, March 19th, it's pretty quick. We could do it then. And she was like, that's crazy. That's so soon and sudden. I said, yeah, but March 19th. And where my stand was in this is like, in no way am I going to push Bay into this. I am absolutely thrilled and excited for the possibility of being in this work with her, but it has to be her choice. And any push I bring, that's not the way. And what happened was I started to talk to her and she started to become more enrolled, started to talk to Doug and Lisa, and they started to become, hey, maybe we could do that. And then some fear showed up for Bay, and we sat down and talked about it, and we got to the point where um, I'd coordinated. So Doug's going to come back down with me, Lisa's going to come back down with me, and Bay's going to come. And we were looking at flights, and flights are expensive right now for all the reasons. And uh, and I was coordinating with Doug, and I was sharing, maybe we're not going to be able to do this. I was like, it's too expensive. Flights are like twice as much as they would normally be. So I kind of told Bay, and I was like, all right, well, we'll find a time. And I went to bed, and Bay said, well, let me just take a look. And I kind of groggily woke up at 10:30. I'd gone to bed at 9 or something. I was pretty tired. And Bay had her computer, and she's like, okay, I think I found a way to do flights. And that was that moment where I was just like, well, if this isn't spirit speaking to me, if the invitation to go further and not stop here is coming from Bay, I gotta trust that. And so she's like, yeah, we could do it this way. It's a little more expensive, but, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So we're heading back in 2 weeks to sit in ceremony again. And again, I just know I can feel the truth in my soul of continuing to do this work. And I have only the slightest idea how to continue to make that work, but I trust it. And I also trust my resourcefulness, and I trust my ability to enroll others to come and take this medicine and do this work with me and to partner with me in this way. And really, that's how I'm committed to living my life more and more, is from trusting that stirring in my soul, trusting that thing I feel behind my intellect, and living further and further and further from that place. And what I think you will find as I do is that as we do that, life becomes really elegant and simple. Not less scary, sometimes more scary, because as you lean into these things, you are opening yourself up to a degree of hurt, heartbreak, risk. There is no reward without risk. We can live our life protected from all the risks that are there, or we can live our life going after the reward that our heart yearns for. That's where the game is. The cool thing is that even though our fear continues to hang out, as we confront it more, and as life batters us against the rocks, breaks our heart, betrays our trust, does all of that stuff, as that happens, and then we find our own resourcefulness and come back to a position of harmony with ourselves and our soul and our possibility, we discover, oh wow, I don't have to fear quite so much. I was afraid to go down that path, but when I did, I discovered I'm actually way more resilient than I thought. And in that, we start to trust ourselves more and more, and it becomes a virtuous cycle. So let's have a sip of tea. That's going to conclude the part where I'm sharing about my experience. I'm going to take questions, and I'm going to now tie all of this into what is actually happening. Like, why do you purge on ayahuasca? Some questions like that, so you can understand how this makes sense. Because ayahuasca does not have to be something where you're just like, just trust me, to your friend. Just trust me, it's magical. Don't worry about it. That's fine if that works for your friend, but for people like me, who from their fear had learned to become very intellectual, we need a bridge. Just trust me, fuck you. I'm a lawyer. My life is about not trusting you. So how about I don't? How about not? So we want to create a bridge here. That's what I want to create, so that people can kind of find their way into what I believe is one more tool that is going to save and transform the world. I really mean that. So Let's see what you guys wrote first. Jared just saying, I would love to sit with Madraya, but I think she's either telling me no or that I need to overcome obstacles to be with her. I love that you're feeling that, Jared. I honor that. That truth is your truth, and there will be another time when that truth shifts. So great work, man. Great work trusting and hearing what's there. So let's talk about, where did I put my questions? Put them somewhere, and then I guess I hid them from me. Aha! I found them. I have to bring it back here. Oh boy, where did I put all this stuff? Whatever. You're wrong? Oh, there it is. Okay, great. I've sorted myself out, guys. Don't worry. I'm handled. So let's begin a little bit by talking about the brief logistics for ayahuasca and then what's happening in ceremony. So the brief logistics, ayahuasca brew is made of two plants. One is what do I wrote here? The bark or the leaves of the chacruna plant, which is called something weird, B. caapi. And it's also combined with, I guess it's some other plants that have DMT. DMT is the active ingredient. When you take DMT by itself, it goes straight into your brain, and people describe the experience as like shooting across the universe in a rocket ship in about a minute and then coming back. So it's like a very fast, oh my God, what happened? Kind of hard to integrate. It's a lot. You're like, reeling. How do I make sense of that? The ayahuasca brew and the blend of two plants that's been used by tribes along the Amazon River for thousands, millennia, works in such a way that allows the DMT to be absorbed slowly through your stomach lining and into your bloodstream, which then allows the process to take much longer. You sit a ceremony for about 8 to 9 hours, and you typically drink about 2 cups, 3 cups. You can drink more. That's always available. And what I'm going to talk about now will start to be a little spiritual, and this is the part we can't avoid, because I'm going to refer to this medicine like it has a wisdom, because it does on some level. Just like there's an inherent wisdom to the way your life is unfolding and what is showing up in your conversations. Often I'll have clients show up with me and they're like, I know this isn't the thing that coaching is to be for, but I'm really upset with my wife and this is happening and I don't know what to do and I don't even know what to ask for to be coached on and I know that's wrong and blah, blah, blah. So they've got this idea, they've got a knowing, right? They know the medicine they're meant to get. They know that they're meant to bring a right conversation to me and they know that they're meant to blah, 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 all of that. In fact, what's being brought, what's showing up in their life, what they are currently spewing into the conversation is exactly what's meant to be there. And that's in that way, coaching it meets you exactly where you are, because wherever you are right now is exactly where you ought to be. That's where the work lies. Madre Ayahuasca works exactly the same way. So the medicine it meets you in your current state and then brings you whatever visual or body experience or thinking or whatever is going to best presence you to that state and best support you in moving through it. What most transformational work is about is confronting the stuff that you've spent your life avoiding. I talked about this at the start. In coaching, we do that when you set a goal, you move towards it. In ayahuasca, you get that by just having vision shown in front of you or having your body feel a certain way. Maybe you just feel really crampy and it's like, great, here's the discomfort you've spent your life avoiding. And as we sit with that, instead of resisting it, what happens is we build a muscle in our capacity to just be with it. What I mean by just be with it is no longer do I have to spend energy keeping at arm's length. If I've spent my whole life hating people that are angry, then I must keep my own anger at arm's length. I have to, because I hate people that are angry. And the only way I can survive and not just loathe myself is to keep my anger out there away from me. And what coaching and Madre Ayahuasca and all other transformational opportunities do is they bring your anger right here in front of you where you can't avoid it. And so we sit with that anger, and at first we resist it. But the cool thing about this medicine is it's like, no, it's right here. Go ahead and resist as long as you want. The longer we're in a state of resistance, the more uncomfortable the medicine feels. So when people show up in an ayahuasca ceremony and are like, it is brutal, it was such a hard night, what makes that night so hard is their resistance to experiencing and being with what they are being brought. Kind of crazy, right? Here's a silly example of this. Imagine that there's nausea in your body and you feel like there's a purge coming forward, but you're afraid to vomit. So what you do is you try to force it out. You try to retch, you make yourself retch. Your body knows when it's time to puke, and it is not going to puke before then. And so all of your efforts to push this through, to make this happen sooner, are actually you avoiding, you resisting being with that experience of simply being nauseated without it going away. And in your resistance, it makes it more uncomfortable, more unpleasant, more awful. So in truth, ceremony, transformation, the suffering is optional. Now, knowing that doesn't make it easy to be like, great, suffering's optional. I'm just not going to suffer. Thanks, Adam. But that is still the truth. So it requires some courage and some mettle to choose not to suffer, to choose to allow and be with whatever's showing up. But that's the work. So in any event, we practice allowing whatever we're being given in the transformational process to just be here with us. So if it's anger, we let ourselves be in anger, where we get this vision of someone screaming at us. Instead of trying to push them away or like, stop showing me this, we simply like be with everything that gets driven up. Fuck, I feel terrible. I feel awful. I feel sad. And we let that anger rage at us. And as you do this, it starts to flush through your system and your resistance starts to fall away. Because what is happening is you are learning how to just be with it. And if you can let something be, it will let you be. And so as this happens, suddenly all of that energy you required, all of that energy you had devoted to resisting something in your life dissipates. It's not that you're like, have you ever done this where you're like, I need to stop doing this thing, maybe with like a hammer. I need to stop doing this thing. You know that? That's not transformational. That's trying to force yourself to stop doing a behavior. What happens in the process I'm describing is, let's make it a little more real. Imagine that you have learned to grit your teeth and clench your fists anytime you're around anger to try to like grin and bear through it. And you notice your hands are starting to get cramped and your jaw is wearing away. You have to wear a night guard and all that. You're like, I need to stop clenching my teeth and my fists. Now, imagine that we know the reason you do that is because you can't be with anger. You've learned to grin and bear through it. And so in transformational work, as you sit with that anger and slowly but surely surrender into it and just be like, I'm not going to make it go away and it's never going to go away. And I'm just going to let myself be with the medicine I'm being brought. Suddenly, you no longer have to be in resistance to anger. And as you do that, it's not that you decided to stop doing it. It's that there was no reason any longer to do it. You no longer need to avoid anger. You no longer need to be in resistance to anger. And as such, it's just like, oh, well, why would I keep doing this? So there's no like significant, like I need to stop doing the thing. Instead, it's just like, oh, cool. I guess I just don't do that anymore because there's no longer any point. It no longer serves the purpose that it once served because the thing for which it was trying to keep you whole has moved away. So that just dissipates. This is where we get to the purge. So a lot of this stuff is stored energetically in our body. It exists in our emotions. It exists in our thoughts, the loopiness of our thoughts. And it also exists in our musculature, our tendons, the hold of our body. If you were told to shut up a lot as a kid, then your throat muscles might be kind of tight because that's where you learn to like hold your voice. That was where you brought the energy to constrict here so that your voice stopped and you didn't speak when what would innately be your opportunity to speak. So you learned to hold that part of you in check. You closed your throat chakra. Talk about this stuff in yoga as well. Now, you've learned in this process, you've sat and embodied the wisdom of simply being with something. You no longer have to resist it. And so that's going to free up all of this energy in your body. That energy needs to go somewhere. If it just went here and you're like, great, so glad that, now don't let that out. I don't want to purge. I'm scared of purging. Well, that energy is going to just go wherever the next place it's going to go and get locked up there. And so the purging is the release of whatever energy was locked up. So typically in ayahuasca, one of the purges people are most afraid of is vomiting. But there are many ways you can purge. You can purge by peeing. You can purge by shaking, shivering. You can purge by yawning or breathing or crying. I tend to do a lot of soft crying. I have a soft, gentle heart. You can purge by pooing. You can purge by farting, burping. All of these are ways of purging. What I find is the more gentle and loving we are to the part of ourselves that we are letting go, that we are releasing, the more gentle and loving the purge tends to be. Often, especially early on, people are working through energy for which they have a great deal of judgment. I fucking hate people that get angry. And then, shit, I gotta be with the fact that I'm an angry motherfucker. That purge is going to come out violently because that's how you're being about this part of yourself. And so the beauty of this medicine is that the purge, it's one more mirror for you. And as you release this stuff, energetically, you're unburdening yourself and you are trusting the wisdom of your body. Your body knows, oh, we can let go of this. It's time to let it out. So that's how purging tends to work. That's why purging is happening. It is simply the unfolding, the releasing of constriction, of energy caught up that just unwinds. And you find you start to learn to really hold the purge with as much reverence as any other part of this. In fact, the purge is sort of like crossing the finish line, like way to go. It doesn't always feel that good. It can feel quite, but one of the things that's quite miraculous, I believe, about this medicine and about transformational coaching, assuming you have a coach that is transformational, is that it is self-regulating. With a drug, it is not. You can take as much opioids as you want. And what taking an opioid is going to do is going to numb your body, the wisdom in your body and your mind, such that you are not able to feel the situations when your body's like, don't take any more of that. You dull that sense. Ayahuasca works the opposite way. Ayahuasca, if you drink more and more of it, what will happen is it'll naturally purge out the excess of the medicine. So this is the part where you kind of have to do a bit of trusting. There is something inherent in this medicine where it will support you to drink precisely the amount of medicine to meet the capacity you currently have and to do the work that is there for you to do. And you will purge any excess so you can then sit with what is there. That's fucking cool. You will find as you drink more medicine that you require less, unlike a drug. With a drug, your tolerance goes up and you require more and more to have the same experience. With ayahuasca, because you are opening yourself, because you are reducing your resistance, because you are letting go of your expectations and all that, you require less and less medicine to get the same experience, to do the same gift. Just like coaching. In early days, when I start working with a client, they've got all kinds of performance. They've got like, I've hired this coach. I'm going to show up this way. I'm going to do everything perfectly. He's going to love me. I'm afraid he thinks I'm a dork. And then they show up like this eager student. And from that eagerness, they don't have much space for themselves to just be a human. And consequently, the coaching takes longer to work. It takes a while to get traction because that stuff's got to fall away. So over time, the more someone works with a coach, the more potent coaching becomes. It's exponential. Madre Ayahuasca is exactly the same. The more you work with this medicine, the more potent it becomes, not because it's breaking down your system, but because you are transforming. You're becoming more in harmony and alignment with yourself. And so there's less resistance to the world. There's more trust available. Miraculous. Okay. Let's have a sip of tea and then let's go to our awesome questions. It's time to hit those up. So, first question is from Sarah Bolton. Hello, Sarah. Sarah says, where do you go for an ayahuasca ceremony or experience? That is to say, what is the environment like? In my own house or in a rainforest or a retreat center? I would not advise drinking ayahuasca by yourself or with like friends, just like I would not advise hiring your friend or thinking that you can coach yourself. It doesn't work. The shaman holds a very important role in your journey and does a lot of subtle work you may not be aware of. Just like a coach does, while you're the one doing your work, the coach is holding the energy of the space and supporting you. So don't do it by yourself. Don't do it with friends. Hold it with reverence. And so the place I would suggest is feel the stirring in your soul. when someone comes to you, like often what happens is this plant medicine starts to speak to us. We start to notice it being heard of. You're on this live with me. Maybe you're already starting to feel called to it. You know that is what I would invite you to trust. And I would also to invite you to trust when you notice, not this person. Trust that. Just like Jared modeled beautifully for us, like I can tell it's not right now for me. Trust that. Um, And when you're ready, I think highly of Rhythmia. It is a incredibly beautifully curated experience. It is comfortable. It is not in the jungle, getting bitten by a million mosquitoes, sitting on a canvas mat. It is a nice bed. It is a beautiful setting. It's a beautiful scenery. It's being held by an entire team of shaman and medicine workers, including paramedics, all of that sort of stuff. So I really recommend Rhythmia, which is why that's where I'm taking people. But it doesn't have to be your path. Just trust into the spirit speaking to you that's telling you, yes, this, no, not that. Michael Bartura, I think that's how you say your name, asks kind of the same thing. How would you recommend picking up a good guide / facilitator for the journey? Kind of the same thing. So you don't have to run into this stuff. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle saying, if anyone knows about getting bitten by mosquitoes, it's me. So true. I'm the best mosquito repellent for everyone else. If you don't like mosquitoes, stand next to me and then they'll just bite me. So again, there's many ways. If you're feeling called into this medicine, you really trust your spirit. And the beautiful thing is it's going to unfold for you. Our intellect has a hell of a time trusting that because that's not what our intellect does. Our intellect doesn't trust. And so you might hear me say, it's going to unfold for you. It'll happen. And then you're going to be like, yeah, but how? How do I know? It just will. It just will. And you can reach out to me if you'd like to talk, about that more, or if you feel called to come and sit in ceremony with me, you can let me know, and then I can kind of curate that a little bit for you. That's how I would recommend, though. And of course, that doesn't mean you can't ask people, right? Like sometimes the stirring in our souls, like this is what's next, and then we don't even have to think too much about it. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask this friend. Do you know anyone that blah blah blah? Do you know anyone that blah blah blah? As I posted this Facebook Live, we're gonna talk about this, the one where I talk about ayahuasca. Someone posted, if you want to get mushrooms, reach out to this guy. He's the best online. I do not trust that. That's not the stirring in my soul. I just deleted that comment. Get out of here, you marketer. That's not what we're looking for. There are people in this business for money. There's nothing wrong with making money, doing what you do, and in fact, that's a requirement. An exchange of money is an exchange of energy and creative energy. Doing this solely as a means to the end of making money is missing the magic and the point entirely. So you want to feel into it, like, does this person feel trustworthy? Jess is asking, how has your experience of ayahuasca evolved over time or differed with each ceremony? And would I say it's impacted or guided my spiritual journey? So the first question, and I think I've answered that fairly well. I would say my expectations of what I ought to be brought have softened. So I'm just less in expectation of how it ought to look. One of the pieces of medicine I was given by ayahuasca while sitting locally, she said, go further with less, Adam. I'm pretty robust physically, so I can take a lot. I can drink a lot and hold myself. I can drink a lot of medicine and hold myself. I can get stoned. I can smoke a lot of pot and be all right. And consequently, that can have me like, bulldoze into stuff. Great, give it all to me right now before it's taken away. And the medicine she gave me was like, go further with less. So I've been practicing with that. I was sitting in ceremony just recently, and I was laying there after having a second cup of medicine and feeling its effects. And my head was like, dude, you should go up and drink a third cup. You don't get to come here this often. Drink a third cup, drink a third cup. Did I mention you should drink? Fuck off. And so I was sitting, noticing this loopiness. And I was like, maybe I should go ask the shaman, like, what should I do? On the one hand, I want to trust the medicine. I can't totally distinguish whether this is coming from her or from my ego, my head, my thoughts, my intellect. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom first, and then I'll go up to the front and I'll ask. And I went to the bathroom, peed, came out, and as I came out, I was looking out the doors. They have big double doors to look out to the most beautiful sky you've ever seen. And the night sky, while in communion with the spirits, it will move you to tears. You are present to creation in a way that is unbelievable. And so I was like, whoa. And I sat out there, and this night it was so windy. It was incredible. And they've got hammocks set up all around the perimeter of the Maloka. You can go and lie in these hammocks. And so I sat next to one of the shaman who was outside, and we just kind of looked at the sky together, silent. We had a noble silence. We weren't talking. Then I got up and I felt called to the hammock, and I lay in the hammock and just let the wind blow me while I looked up at the sky. And then there's a point where I was just clear. It's time for me to go back in. And all of those thoughts, it's like nature had just sort of smudged away those thoughts, just sort of like brushed them off of me. And it brought me back to like, oh yeah, go further with less. Go further with less. And when the loopiness shows up, sometimes a beautiful tool in our toolkit is to go and be in nature. Nature can be a great smudge, can really clear us well. And Jess, you're asking, how would I say it's impacted or guided my spiritual journey? To a great extent. So up until my first ceremony, my first ayahuasca ceremony, I had been doing a lot of work with my coach. Most of the work with my coach had become more and more spiritual in nature, trusting the spiritual path, etc. And there was a degree to which that was still like an intellectual exercise. Like I was like, I know there is something greater than me. I knew. And as I went to sit in ayahuasca ceremony, on the other side of that, I came out it's not that I didn't know, I still knew, that was still there, that didn't get wiped away, but let me get the right words, I was trust and spirit. From that moment on, who I was being on this planet was trust in spirit, partnership with spirit. I live my life as spirit. Spirit operates in the world as me, as it does for all of us. But that's some healing work for us to do, some transformational work to come to that point. For most of us, we begin intellectually getting it. So this additional piece, this extra piece of transformation really started to open that up for me. I believe that coaching would have gotten me there too, but sometimes it's nice to have multiple tools in our toolkit. David's asking, how do I see my business growing in the future, and will it include plant medicine? Absolutely. Like I shared, I'm very clear that there's more work for me to bring to Rhythmia. And that tapestry, my thread is woven into it. And I don't understand it too much, and I'm letting go of that. More and more as I deepen and transform, I'm just trusting what is showing up. I'm trusting what I'm called into, scary as it may be, and letting that guide and dictate my life. And I got to tell you, it's a beautiful thing. Life becomes really simple and joyful and delightful and thrilling and scary at times. And like, am I fucking crazy? And yeah, I kind of am, because conventional wisdom is like, plan out the next 30 years of your life so that you're okay for the remaining 30 years of your life. And then at the end of that, maybe have a bit of fun. Do a bunch of crack when you're like 1 year left from, whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of crazy, and it's never felt better. And Jess, you're just saying, I can relate to that so much. Currently working with a lot of spiritual and intellectual self, and the beginning of my share answered the first part of the question. Great. So I will absolutely, most of my clients, I'm going to be inviting down to this. I'm very clear, like the medicine of coaching, it's not for everyone, and everyone has their own tempo, and there is the melody of our collective music exists in honoring each of our individual tempos. And so I am going to continue making the invitations from my soul to someone else's soul, and let that be a seed planted. And whenever they're ready for it, they're ready for it. There's already the first group of 3 that are going to come down with me are already in place. So if you want to be a part of how this is going, again, reach out, let me know. Raf says, I'd love to hear about your preparation and integration process. So preparing, one of the things you do heading into ceremony is you honor a dieta. For novice ayahuasqueros, such as myself, people that drink, That diet is primarily a physical one, and it consists of like eating really clean. When you eat things like red meat or even chicken to some extent, less so, they have a high digestive load. They require a lot from our body to break down and to digest. And so if you eat red meat, what happens is your sensory organ, your whole being, all of your body that's sensory, gets dulled. Whereas if you refrain from eating that, you will become more sensitive. Some people experience this as irritation, sort of like a good analog to this is my ears are quite waxy. Bet you didn't know that about me, but it's true. Fun Adam fact. A lot of earwax. And sometimes I have to go, lately we put olive oil in them. It's like we're seasoning my ears, but apparently that softens it and then it leaks out. But sometimes I've had to go to the doctor and they pump water in with this device and then pull it out, and the suction pulls the earwax out. Babe went with me one time. She was like, I got this morbid fascination. Can I look at it? The doctor's like, sure thing, you big fucking weirdo. When they do that, everything is so loud and raw and grating for the first couple of days because I'm now able to hear much more clearly. So my sensory organ is kind of like, whoa, I got to manage this. I got to get recalibrated. So as you stop eating red meat and stuff like that, you can find yourself becoming irritated, more irritated by people, and we get confused. We think, oh, no wonder I'm grumpy. I'm not eating the stuff that I love. I should eat the stuff I love. Nah, you're just becoming more sensitive, more attuned to the harmony that exists around you. And from that attunement, you're learning to calibrate with that. This is a great example of how there's this breakthrough available, but we turn away because it's unpleasant to be in that part where we haven't yet calibrated what's next. So that's one of the parts of preparation is I honor the dieta. Dieta includes no sex. So no sex, no masturbating for 3 days before, during, and then 3 days after. Again, to really cleanse the energy in our body. Having sex with someone is a big energetic load in your system. And so too is masturbating. You're expelling a lot of energy, a lot of creative energy. So we're allowing all of that to build up in our system. And then beyond that, I don't do a lot of preparing. I don't sort of come with like very clear, here's the stuff that has absolutely got to get answered for me. Leading up to this, there is a natural unfolding for all of this. So leading into this ceremony, one of the things that was clear was, I don't know what's next for the Forge, and I'm really curious about it. I'm really curious about Doug. Doug saying, I told Lisa it was 5. You're getting me in trouble saying 3. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe it's 20. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So the Forge, the group Bay and I lead, is ready for a breakthrough. It's growing, and you've probably heard me talk about this on the live show before. So I had that in the back of my head. What might be next for the Forge? And what I got clear was like, drink medicine with Bay. Drink some more medicine, continue to be in the work, trust that it's going to unfold. And so from that, we'd kind of been waiting to make an invitation to our current group to join us for what's next. And coming back, I was like, yeah, we don't need to do that. What's next is to invite them to join us, be clear that we're not clear what it looks like, but make the invitation and then let things unfold. So that was the preparation. The integration process, again, not a big deal. This is part of my integration. So in sharing with all of you, in part of the gift I have for the world, part of the medicine I have is the ability to build bridges so that we can kind of get to that spiritual truth from where we're beginning, which is the intellectual, the egoic, the fear-based, all that kind of truth. And so I sat down and I wrote a big list, like a big piece that I'm going to share. It's called The Invitation. You may already have seen it. Can I write in the comments? Do you let me do that, Facebook? I have to do it this way. It won't let me directly write a comment. So I got to go here. I'm going to minimize that. I got to put in a comment. There you go. I wrote this long piece called The Invitation, putting some of my thoughts into words. So that's a little bit of my integration. I reviewed my notes that I took while I was away. And finally, I got on a call with my coach and I just talked with her and I shared. And our coaching call this week was largely me just sharing all of the downloads, all of what I'd gotten. And that is priming the pump for the next call I'll have with my coach, where what my intention is to have her support me to get to really create the project that is going to hold kind of the container for that commitment I shared with you to bring people every 2 months, to go back and drink medicine every 2 months. So I'm not just going to be like, that's awesome. And I'm going to let it unfold and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to trust it's going to happen because that's a beautiful thing. But then I'm not really acting in concert with spirit. I'm not acting in partnership with her. I'm just sort of like, she'll do all the work. That's not how spirit works. Spirit brought me this. I can see that's what there is to do. Now I get into action. So I'm creating a project. I'm writing a vision for myself of what I'm going to be bringing to the world from doing this. I'm making milestones. I'm setting action steps. Reach out to 3 people every day. Send them a heartfelt message from my soul to their soul. Make an invitation. All of that sort of stuff. So that's the integration on the backside. Let's see. Sharafat asks, what led to me choosing to experience this? Was it boredom or genuine curiosity? It was a calling. It was literally me feeling called into it. And then it kind of chose me. Remember, as I shared, my friend reached out and was like, yo, do you want to come to this event? It's in Costa Rica. And my only thinking was like, Costa Rica with Brian during December when I already had the time off? Hell yeah, I'm in. And then I looked and it's like, it's a week-long ayahuasca retreat. Fucking sweet. So I didn't I didn't effort it. There's no efforting. It just sort of like, oh, great, it's here. We're doing it. Amazing. So that's what had me choose it. Rebecca, hello Rebecca, asks, who did you want to be just before you took ayahuasca? That's a cool question. Um, I think the answer to that was me. And I think that's the answer for most of us, but we can't hear it. Our soul, what happens at some point when we're very young, and they talk about this at Rhythmia too, which is quite cool, but there's a split from our soul, the person we've always been. In my lineage, you'll hear me talk about it like our essence, our essential nature, our soul, our spiritual self, gets split from who we learn to be to survive. Give you a quick example. When I was 2 years old, or maybe even younger, my dad was trying to pin a diaper on me. I was doing some healing around this while I was in Costa Rica. And he grabbed the diaper and he couldn't get the pin in. He was trying to jam it in. He didn't realize he'd pinched a bunch of my skin too. So he was jabbing me. He was shivving me with a safety pin. I'm a toddler, a baby, and I can't do anything about that. I'm just screaming, ah. Imagine that, right? Like this child who's innocent, unaware, helpless, just getting stabbed by the person he loves the most. Not my dad's fault. Not my fault. Just that's the event. And at that point, my soul split off. The safety of knowing that I've got everything I need and I'm perfect exactly as I am came into conflict with the world at that moment. And that was where the split occurred. The split, by the way, has to occur. This is not something that's bad or wrong or should be avoided. The hero's journey, right, is the split occurs and then we come back and merge again. We have to do that so that we can learn the stuff we learn while we're split before we come back. So from here, I think all of get them even, what all of us truly want is to be our soul. That's what we want, but we can't hear it because we're so far over here. I want more money. Help me make more money. Help me not hate people that drive in front of me. That's the stuff we say. But what we really want is to be our soul. And I really believe, I don't know, it feels a little bit like a cop-out answer, but it's the truth that I have in this moment, which is I really wanted to be more of myself over and over and over again because I think this guy's amazing and I love this guy. Adam French says, if someone is finding benefits with microdosing, LSD, psilocybin presumably, as their only point of reference, how would ayahuasca compare as a resource or a necessity? And what would one have to gain by experiencing the latter? I think by latter he means as a necessity. So ayahuasca is never a necessity, nor is coaching. And I invite you, I think it's really helpful to hold coaching and ayahuasca in the exact same light. Transformational coaching, not business coaching, not financial coaching, not the kind of coaching that's just like at the level of the surface. Coaching that's transformational, that changes who you are being in the world. I find it really helpful to hold those two together because then we have an analog that helps us get out of where we can sometimes get stuck, which is like, well, it's a drug or it's mystical, so I should do it. Well, is that how you're relating to coaching? That it's mystical and therefore you should? Well, no, I just would go to a coach when I feel called to. Great. Same thing for ayahuasca. So it's never a necessity. It's medicine. And all of us, we don't have very good examples of medicine in society. We have examples of drugs, and then that's the lens through which we relate to this medicine. So this is distinct from drugs. It is medicine for your soul. Coaching is medicine for your soul. It is not a drug. It is not a quick fix. Medicine is never a quick fix. Medicine is something that heals you, and it requires you go through the process of healing, the stages. So first of all, ayahuasca, not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination. Um, it depends why someone's microdosing. If you are microdosing because it's neat or because it makes you feel a little bit better, that's totally fine. You would take on ayahuasca because you are ready for a shift, and you know you are ready for a shift because you feel the stirring in your chest, behind your intellect, or in your soul. So the more I try to answer into this question, the more I'm going to get into the realm of answering an intellectual question, and the more that will be in opposition to what I really want to do, which is invite all of us to continue to practice listening to that stirring in our chest. Listen to that voice behind your intellect and see what it's telling you. And there's a wisdom that most of us aren't willing to trust, but that is always there and that is always guiding us. And that wisdom is what we would call our intuition, our wisdom, our knowing, our soul. And so the benefits of ayahuasca or transformational coaching are miraculous, literally miraculous. People occur 10 years younger. If they've spent their whole life carrying this weight, and the weight is called like, I'm a fucking worthless piece of shit, and suddenly they shed that, their shoulders are going to come back. They're going to occur taller. Their eyes are going to soften and open up, and they're going to start to see the world through a lens that's different than all of this is here to tell you how you're fucking worthless. They're going to occur more loving. You're going to feel their heart more. And all of this is stuff that you wouldn't believe talking to me for a year is going to have someone occur 10 years younger, and yet it's true. And so often people microdose less to create a miracle and more to like have life as it is feel a bit better. It's not always the reason, and it doesn't have to be the reason, but we're talking in the realm of miracles. There's not a lot of analogs to miracles. Miracles are miracles. Yeah, but what about like when I read a book and I felt really good about myself? That's fucking cool. But a miracle is a miracle. Is that a miracle? No, it's reading a book and feeling good about yourself. So that's how I'd answer your question, Adam. Vile is asking any lasting insights or transformation. Maybe. I'll tell you. I don't really know. It's too early. I'm literally, I don't know, like less than a week out of the experience. So too early to say, but almost certainly. Mara, you asked a question. What did I hope for going in? What insights did the experience give me? And would I recommend this to others? I didn't have a lot of hope going in. I simply trusted this was the thing for me to take on, and I was kind of excited about what was going to show up. It's not that I was in active resistance to hope. It wasn't like, I hope this happens, but I'm worried if I hope for it too much, then I won't get it, so I'll push it down, and then I'll stay here at this flat line. It was more just like, this time I felt really open to the experience. And rather than feeling like there was something wrong that I didn't have a specific hope, I just trusted the experience that I had going in, which was like, oh, cool, neat. I'm going to see how this goes. And I got so much more than I could have possibly hoped for anyhow. I've shared most of the insights this experience gave me, and would I recommend this to others? Wholeheartedly. And I am, just like I am now, I've been a stand for people to work with a coach for many, many years because it has miraculously and immeasurably made my life better. That's like just the easiest place to share from, right? I am enrolling about coaching because of the difference it makes in my own life. So I don't have to sell you anything. I'm just jazzed about this medicine. And so too is the case with ayahuasca. I'm jazzed about it. It immeasurably makes my life better. And I fucking love life, as do you. And I love expanding into it. And this journey is just miraculous and beautiful. And so absolutely, I would recommend this to others. I would recommend coaching to others. I would recommend transformation in general, full stop, whatever that looks like for you. I would recommend that to others. And finally, let's have a sip of tea, and then we're going to wind down after Maximilian's question here. He asks a few ones. He's getting kind of heady. Contextualizing my questions into spirituality, ceremony, ego dissolving, devotion, non-attachment, renouncements of ego practices, etc. That's his preface. 1, what is the ego to you? To me, the ego is that part of ourselves designed to protect us from our fear. That's it. And then people often are like, well, it's more complicated than that. To which I would counter, it becomes more complicated than that. But you can always unwind it all the way back to that fundamental premise. So if I begin my life with a soul that is brilliant, that is part of what I bring into the world, brilliance and wit. You probably get those two things about me. And if at some point there's a split and I start to be afraid, maybe I'm not as brilliant as I think I am. Maybe my brilliance is wrong. I notice when I show up and say smart things, adults get upset about that. And, ah, thanks, Maximilian. I'm still going to answer because it's fun. So then I stop trusting my brilliance. I either stop trusting that it's okay or I stop trusting that I'm enough of it. And not trusting I'm enough would be like, I might be stupid. I'm afraid of being stupid. Yo, we're all dumb. We're all stupid at times. That's to be a human. But for me, from that fear, it's significant that I'm stupid because it means I'm not brilliant enough, and my brilliance is who I am. So being stupid becomes the negation of soul. It becomes the existential assassin to my very being. And now, given that I have this fear called I might be stupid, the ego gets formed. So I start to create strategies. I create my ego, but I develop a strategy to ensure I don't look stupid. I'm going to read a lot. I'm going to make sure I always have the right answer. I'm going to make sure that I use big vocabularies. I'm going to make sure that I condescend and diminish other people's intellect so at least I'm the smartest one in the room. Even if I'm dumb, I'm smarter than all you other dummies. So on, so on, and so on. And that series of strategies becomes the ego. And I forget that I created those strategies. Sometimes I wasn't even conscious when I did. And so all of that stuff becomes this whole mechanism designed to protect me from what I'm afraid of. That's the ego. And what happens over time is because those strategies are out of alignment with my truth. My truth is just knowing on some spiritual level that I'm brilliant and I don't got to worry about looking stupid. And even when I am stupid, that's brilliant too. All of that stuff, Killarney, is that a thing? Killarney. Baloney. Doesn't matter. It's all good. So shove all that aside. Great. Now I can kind of like just hang out here. But I don't have that. Instead, I'm locked in this death grip, this cycle trying to solve the problem of being stupid. And so as I live life from that, I'm out of alignment with my truth, and that starts to feel painful on its own. And so now I create new strategies on top of the old strategies. They're designed to ensure that I can feel smart from out from under that armor. And then it just repeats and repeats. So it's like the shell of a nautilus, if you've ever seen that, or I think maybe a snail too. Like it's like this ever expanding spiral. That's how the ego works. It builds on layers on layers on layers on layers. So that's what the ego is to me. I'll answer a few more of these. Do I distinguish between desire and craving? Sure. I would say desire is that stirring in your soul, that stirring in your chest. Desire is what I felt when I was first getting that message, like you are here to be a shaman of some sort. Craving is that part that chases after desire for fear of not getting what we want, for fear of missing out on it, for fear of taking too long, or for fear of not getting it soon enough. So that's the part of our ego that chases after or that clutches at the desire that's there. Feeling desire is good. If we have a diminished muscle in feeling desire, then what happens is we become cravey and clutchy and addictive. Must get all of it instead of, can I just sit with this feeling of desire? Do I think attachment should be renounced or overcome through service and devotion? I don't think anything should ever be renounced. I think we should bring love to the parts of ourselves that we are not yet willing to bring love to. So if your tendency to get attached to something is something you're like, fuck, I shouldn't be attached. I'm attached. That kind of thing. I think that the medicine there is to bring love to that part of yourself. And in bringing love to that part of yourself, it can start to unfold. And as it can start to unfold, the need for constriction goes away. And then we never needed to renounce anything in the first place because it simply dissolves. Just like, weird example, but if you have sugar and water, you don't have to renounce the sugar. You just boil the water and the sugar dissolves into it and then you have syrup. Really weird example. If one works to not let the ego have the upper hand, where does heartbreak, pleasure, lust have its place? Eat some tobacco. Well, the ego is always going to get us at some point. It's a myth, it's an illusion to believe that we'll best our ego. It's like the world's greatest adversary. If you could imagine there was a point like a game you really loved, but you got to the point where you beat everyone and no one could ever beat you, you'd be kind of like, oh, that's a bit boring. The cool thing is your ego, you're never going to beat it because it grows with you because it is you. And so that's a beautiful thing. So working to not let the ego have the upper hand to me feels kind of efforty. Um, the game, I believe, is to simply notice the ego as it gets the upper hand, to notice it, to notice it, to notice it, so we can partner with it better. And if we're working to partner with our ego, where does heartbreak, pleasure, lust have its place? Mm, I I don't know. I think heartbreak, pleasure, and lust are all beautiful things that is available for all of us, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're just more places for us to bring love. And as we bring love to these things, what happens is they slide into harmony with us. They slide into alignment where we no longer have to like vilify them. I was noticing I had a drink 2 nights ago, two drinks. I had 2 drinks, alcohol. And then the next day, I was priming myself. I was like, don't drink tonight. Don't drink tonight. Don't drink tonight. Working on my relationship to alcohol because that's a place where I can get like clutchy, cravey. And I was sitting there waiting for massage, noticing this happening, and I'm like, oh, that's a place where I don't trust my body's intuition. I don't trust my knowing of whether my knowing and my listening of whether my body is like, have a drink. That'd be nice. Or I don't want to drink. And I'm scared of that. And so as a result, you can hear I kind of layer all of this, like I try to berate myself a little bit or like layer all of this stuff onto it, which creates a bunch of significant and makes it still harder to honor what is already being shared with me from my body. So that's an example. That's a place where I think bringing more love to that part of myself in those moments and everywhere that shows up, such that then I can start to hear the wisdom of my body, the wisdom of my soul, the wisdom of my spirit, and the wisdom of nature to a greater extent, and let that guide me instead of needing to be like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's kind of like me trying to create this version of my ego that's like a parent. Um, some guy wanted to be on my podcast once who had hired someone to slap him across the face every time he checked social media. That's not very loving, is it? It's a great headline. I think he got like a lot of views or something for that, but that's not a very loving. It'll stop you. You can use hate to stop yourself doing anything for a while, but it's not going to create transformation because love is the medicine that creates transformation. Alexandra's here. Hola, Alexandra. Hola, hermana. I love you too. Alexandra saying, I love you, my soul brother. Thank you for being by my side on this healing journey with me. Alexandra was really you were a leader for our group, led a lot of transformational work through who she was being, not necessarily what she was doing, but who she was being and the work she was taking on sourced a lot of people. Okay, let's finish up. So one, if what I have shared with you today and or that piece I wrote, I'm going to put it again in the comments. Let's do that a second time, called The Invitation. If either of those speaks to your heart, your spirit, your soul, if it creates a stirring in you and you are interested in this work and think that perhaps you'd like to hear more about it, perhaps you'd like to partake, whatever it happens to be, if you just notice there's a stirring, my invitation is let's talk. Talking with me doesn't mean that you then feel obligated to go do anything. It's not that at all. It's more to support you with the noticing you have of what's in your spirit. So that's the first thought. Second, I'm going down in 2 weeks, so I'll probably share more on the other side of that. And third, I'm so excited by what is unfolding. I'm scared by it. I'm thrilled by it. And life is becoming this really beautiful journey where my intellect does not need to do any driving. It's got a beautiful role to play. And I love that guy. This intellect is awesome. But there's nothing I have to do, nothing to sort of force, nothing to require or figure out or make happen. And it's a beautiful place to be. I love you all. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I look forward to talking to anyone that does reach out. God bless. Peace.